One of the extraordinary paradoxes, someone has already alluded to it, in climate change action is that almost all governments agree that we should be minimising greenhouse gases. Almost all governments are attempting at the same time to maximise fossil fuel production.
Yeah.
In fact, we even passed it into law in this country. The 2015 Infrastructure Act makes it a legal duty on governments to maximise the economic recovery of petroleum from the UK's continental shelf. At the same time as we have the Climate Change Act 2008, where it's a legal duty to minimise the production of greenhouse gases.
Yeah.
How does this work? Now, what does psychology tell us about this extraordinary, unresolved contradiction in government policy?
Yeah, it's personified in the Department of Energy and Climate Change, isn't it? We've got the two things that are put together,
which incidentally must implement both policies.
Yes. Well, and it very congratulates itself on it too. You know, great news. We've got new tax breaks for the expansion of exploration in the North Sea. And very, very intelligent and thoughtful people keep these things in different compartments of their minds. Hillary Clinton, whatever, I realize, of course, obviously, one could have serious criticisms of Hillary for a bunch of things, but Hillary Clinton is, I believe, quite sincere in saying that climate change is a major threat, and she quite openly says that. She had a very interesting day. She went out to Norway. This was when she was Secretary of State. She went out to Norway in one day. Bill McKibben talked about this. I thought it was fascinating. In the morning, she went out on a boat which went up into the Arctic and looked at the melting Arctic with a bunch of climate scientists. And she came back very shaken, and she said, this is very disturbing. She said, what I've seen is very, very worrying. Then she had lunch, and then in the afternoon, she sat down with the Exxon representative to Norway and Norwegian Statoil in order to discuss the development of new exploration in the Arctic in areas that had only opened up because of a very melting that she'd seen in the morning. And I guess the explanation is to say, yes, I'm sure many of you would say that there's very clear vested interests and so on going on with this. But I think it's also this issue that I'm saying about compartmentalizing, about how climate change is this shape-shifting issue that you can shape it and mold it into whatever shape you want it. You can both be concerned about climate change, but apparently not concerned about climate change. But there's this disconnect, which goes right down the middle because it gets shaped and molded according to our own biases.
Most people who say that climate change is not taking place and who refuse to accept the scientists are conservative in terms of their politics and conservative in terms of their disposition. Why is that?